Today, we plan to walk around this competition site, and we want this to be an opportunity for you to see the area and take the opportunity to ask us questions about what you see. And we have some thought of what we would like to show you, but feel free to ask about anything, and we will try to do our best in answering together. And Carolina has already told you that if you want to ask any questions, please raise your hand, and we will try to manage the questions from the people who are here at site and help them to ask the questions so that you can hear the questions and answers, everybody. And we have some stops during the walk, and if you don't feel comfortable in asking questions when we are walking, I will try to stop and give you space and time to ask questions. And we are very glad that we have this nice weather today, and we are trying to walk along the area. We start at Håstens Torg, which you have seen in the middle of the map. And here we have, I don't know, Carolina, if you should maybe turn on the filming now.
Okay, then I do stop sharing. Yes.
Yeah. Do you think we should explain anything else about the tour? I don't think so. This is about the questions, and we are going to walk around this area together. And it will take a while since it's a 2 kilometers long site, but we think it's important to show you those things that aren't able to be seen in the photos that we have given you. And now we are at Håstens Torg, and here are the businesses, a grocery store. We have a local bank. Over, away at this side, you can see the ecumenical church. And you have some vehicle with some high lifting area. Oh, I don't know the name of that, but there used to be a post office, but now they are an office for our development housing company of Varberg. We have been in dialogue with these actors around this area, and I thought maybe I could ask Johan, if the operators here, if they have any ideas and thoughts for the area.
Johan, you have to, we cannot hear you, Johan. You have to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. Sorry. I just said that the property owners around the square, they have a community that are responsible for the public spaces, and they together have seen that an important questions around this area is security questions and how the square is used. There's only services here today, no housing just next to the square. So they think it's very important to work with the area and to create an overview, not to create hidden spaces, and to open up the square to make it connected to the surrounding streets. Yeah.
Thank you. One side of Trädlickevägen, there are this Håstens area, about 1,000 apartments, mostly rental apartments in 1 to 2 floors with largely leafy courtyards environment and smaller collected parking areas. And around this square, there are these different shops and restaurants, which many of those area go to. And as you can see, many of those actors have their entrances towards the large parking area. And the place or the space where you could say it's more of a local square don't have these many entrances against it. So maybe this space can feel a bit empty and not too much activity here. But here at the parking area, there is a lot of activity and movement with bicycles, pedestrians, and cars. And you have very proximity to buses to the central of the city. We are going towards the bus lanes and pedestrian
square. Here, this is what they try to explain. And around this square, there's a lot of different operators.
Here we walk outside the grocery store. They need fences over their windows. Here you have a pub restaurant. I think it has many guests since they have been developed and increased their property the last years. I haven't tried it myself, but maybe it's real good food. As you can see, there are some green, smaller trees and so on at this parking space, but I don't really know how many parking places, but I think there are quite many for this area. And this square is not only the people that live in this area who come here and use this grocery store, but other parts of the city, they come here as well. Is there anyone who has any particular questions? Not yet. Carolina, you must say so.
Yes, I tell you if we get any questions in the chat or if anyone raise their hand.
Yeah. As you can see, it's some traffic today. We have to wait. They're both bicycle lanes and walking lane. And at this point, when you look back at Vostens Torg, you have the loading areas and waste management, you know what I'm saying, and you take your groceries and so on. So these parts feels a bit like backsides, and we thought we should move along and go towards the health center.
And Maria, we have our first question.
Yes.
Go ahead. Sorry, my name is Paula. I came in late, but I was wondering what point on the map we are viewing now.
Yeah, I ask one of my colleagues to hold up the map for me. We are at point 11, I think. The bottom of the 11.
Cool, thank you.
And we try to follow the orange dotted line. And the numbers are not numbers along this route, but numbers from the photos you have been given before. So that's not the same order we are going.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Maria, now we can't see your screen. Yes, now it's back.
Okay. And now we are walking along the Trädlyckevägen and we have this green buffer zone between. And sometimes you see the cars on the way and sometimes you are more protected. And now we see the health care center. They have the access from this entrance area. They have parking areas and possibilities to go here also by bicycle. And this health care center, they service a larger part of Varberg. So it's not just the people that live here to this point. And now I don't find any natural path, but I just crossed the lawn and we are going into the Håstens area. And we are going to see how it is to approach the square from inside of the area as a pedestrian or cyclist. I don't know if I'm moving too fast. We have behind me, but maybe they don't want to interrupt. This premises here used to be an postal terminal, you could say. It's our local builder, you could say. Bought the premises and they have asked to tear the building down and to build new apartments. We have not yet began that planning process, but this building is part of the competition to think about and have suggestions for good complementary to the other classification here. And you have the backside of the church, and here you have some of the apartments in the area. They are all different types, but mostly rental apartments. And you reach the rest of the area by this promenade walks, not by car. Maybe we should proceed towards the square again. And here, this 5-story building is the highest building in Håsten, and it contains rental apartments also for the community. Bostadsbolag.
It's a municipal building company that has built this as well, and they're surrounding most of the apartments in the area around it as well.
You have to unmute one when you talk beside each other.
I'll try again and see if it works. It's the municipal building company that has built. No, it's not working.
I think you have to talk with the same microphone, otherwise it comes this surround sound.
We'll try if I go close to Maria here. It's actually built by the municipal building company, and as most of the apartments in the other areas surrounding that we just looked at. Yeah.
Was it okay now?
Yeah. Yes, now I heard you well.
You could say that north of this area, you have a large area that are plant trade, school, preschool, high school, and further northeast, allotments and large floorball hall. Varberg's largest combined activity area and swimming pool, tennis hall. And there are a lot of outdoor activities with skate and so on. So this is a large destination for the whole city and needs to be connected in a good way with this area at Torstenstorg. And maybe I can ask my colleagues if we have anything more we want to say about ongoing ideas and so on that are planned here at Torsten. Do you, Frida, have any?
Well, I don't think there are any ongoing plans here right now, other than we have been talking about. Johan mentioned before some thoughts about the area and some projects here, and wishes they had for the square and the place to be more safe, more secure, and to add more functions and services to make it more livable and a living place. And maybe to add more housings where people, apartments, for example, things like that. Do you want to add something, Christina and Johan?
We think that the operations around here very important players in a continued implementation process, and we really request ideas for how the process during this process. And now we plan to move along. You don't hear me well? Maybe my scarf is covering the microphone. Is it better now? Good. I'm not really a filming architect usually. Maybe I could be. And if you don't hear, it's quite windy here between these houses. And respect, even a day like this in Varberg, when it's not very windy, you have kind of windy tunnel effect between those houses that we just passed. And now we think that we should go on the back side here, between the bank and the gas station, to see how the area looks in the north. And here you see the new apartments with their outdoor spaces and parkings and a large parking area, which is common here in Håsten. And here you have the gas station. Now we're moving towards the circulation and Trädlyckevägen. And as usual around gas stations, there are restricted areas that prohibit that there are living housing and so on nearby. So that's why they have to be certain gaps between the parking and the gas station and other buildings. And here you can, now my colleagues have to help me with the name on the road. Stenåsavägen, kan det heta det? You have the Stenåsavägen, I think, who is crossing Trädlyckevägen here at this circulation point. And here you have a bus stop. And also here with bicycle promenade ways around the area. Behind this green screen, you have building areas from the 90s. And their entrance way is coming. And here you have Åstens Torg as you approach it from northwest as a bicyclist or pedestrian. There are a lot of traffic movements and you have to look around very carefully when you cross the road. As you can see. Siffra här framme vid cirkulationen. På den sidan. Där. Och siffra, vad står det för siffra på kartan där? And now we're approaching number 6 on the map at the circulation for traffic. And here you don't have any leveled crossings, but you have bicyclists and cars at the same level. As you can see on a Friday at 1 o'clock, there are some traffic. In summertime, there is always a lot of traffic. And when I was here 2 days ago and just did this walk, there were a lot of fewer cars. So there are very different I'm trying to find the words, but maybe you can understand me. More or less cars. Different times of the week and different times of the month and of the year, and it's supposed to be working all year around. I think we tried to cross here and move along the Trädlyckevägen, and now we have to go by the lane specially signed for pedestrians so you don't get a bicycle in your back. And it's quite long and straightforward. And the dwellings at the north They have their parking spaces and garage houses. Sometimes you can see the living areas. Here they are semi-detached houses, I think they're called. And we're walking towards, I should try to find the next number on the map. 5. And then we should see level crossing under the road and top little standing.
Maria,
Yes.
we could say that the zone on the left, when you were filming the other way,
Yeah. Okay, I'll go around again.
and the zone on the left is a quite narrow but dense green zone between the bicycle lane and walking path and the road. And it's so dense that you can't even see between the housing and the road. So there's no visual connection between the two structures.
Less noise or it's just how it is?
It's just how it is, I think.
I think it was partly planned to create a secure space between the bicycle path and the road, but it's not planned to be quite as high or as thick as it's turned out to be. That's
And as you can see, these green areas have been growing about 40 or 50 years. That's why some of the trees are really grown up. Even it's not an old forest. It's planted and have been grown through the years. And here you can see connection into the living areas here. And now we are not longer in Tvåsten, but in a more small group housing area where you often common parking areas and surroundings. Is there a problem with the sound again? Okay. And here you usually own your own smaller apartment or detached house. But they have still got their parking areas and garage backs towards this new city life street. And we really would like to see your ideas about how there can be more connections between the north side and the south side of the street. Maybe not the whole length of the area, because it also provides protection for the people who lives here. But maybe they need some more places that they can connect and be able to cross the road safely. We can see across to the south side where you have Trädlyckan. And now we are approaching number 5. And here we have a preschool. At our right side. And maybe you can see beyond the trees that there are a small forest and higher point, Brunsbergs skogen, with our watchtower behind this preschool. And here on the other side of Trädlyckevägen, on the south side, there is a larger buffer zone with trees. And I think that we should look around that and look at the other way, because maybe it's an area where you could develop something. Now we're approaching a new densification project, just a few years old, in maybe it's 7 floors. And I should try to find the words now. We have yes, it's called Atle, but there are some high walls you can see towards the road, and they have been built because of the traffic and the noise from the traffic. And I think when we were working with the densification strategy, we thought about how maybe we could reflect on these later projects. Frida, do you have some things you could share?
Yes, I can start to say that densification can mean so many different things, that you add more buildings or housings to an already built up area. And then there are other types of densification projects that will not just add new apartments, but also other values and qualities to the area and to the city. And I think that this project is that we're facing right now is a pretty good example of where you has only created more homes and apartments, but we can ask ourselves, has it really provided any additional values or qualities? I think. And for example, the street outside the area is still a heavy traffic lane where cars can pass by with high speed, and there are also, as Maria said, those high noise barriers that separates the area from the street. So we are convinced that it's possible to densify along Trädlyckevägen with new apartments, new buildings, new functions, and at the same time add qualities and values, not only for the specific area, but also for the city as a whole. And we see in front of us how the lane becomes more of an urban lane, an urban space, an urban street, with places for meetings and for greenery.
Frida,
and
could you
for-
put your camera on, because we see your name on Zoom. Perfect.
Okay, can you see me now?
Yes.
Can you see me now? Yes. And for other types of ecosystem services. And I think that depends on the design of the street and the design of the densification area, the buildings, and how the buildings will meet the street, and the connection between the buildings and the streets. And if you do that in the right way, you can create a nicer and safer way of walking and cycling along the street. And we think that that would promote more sustainable transport in the city. And I can say that in general, distances are pretty short in Varberg. And we have good conditions for walking and cycling, but still many people chose to go by car, even on short errands. So if we can create environments that will encourage people to choose other more sustainable modes of transport, that would be nice. And I think it's also interesting to see if you can think about adding services and that kind of functions in the ground floors in different places along the street, so that it would be a more livable street, and you can have more places for meetings and create a more mixed area, more mixed development. Do you have any questions about that, this specific project, or so you're free to ask them. Sorry, what again? You ask if there are any restrictions or on the heights or in, well, in the, yes, you can say so in different detailed plans along the lane. For example, this project Atle, they're allowed to build like 7 floors, and in other areas along the lane there are other restrictions for that. So it depends on where along the lane that you are. Okay. But I can say that if we choose to develop some area, we will make a new detailed plan and change those restrictions.
Maybe I could add, Frida, as well. It's very good to look at the what's it called in English? Stadsbyggnadsprogram. We have a stadsbyggnadsprogram that the city council took recently, and it's added in the details for the competition.
Did you put your camera on now?
Yes, sorry. It's a little hard when you hear yourself from 2 different places at the same time. What I said was that in the brief for the competition, we have added the Stadsbyggnadsprogram, and in that program, we describe quite carefully how we think that different heights and areas could be developed. And the city has quite developed some ideas on how different areas could develop in different ways, where we could place in higher buildings or where we need to adjust and go more lower and compared to the current development. No, I think you can be quite free in your interpretation of it, but I think also that it's good to look at some of the intentions in it to have it quite applicable, so it's a bit more realistic.
Are there any other questions? Maybe we are going further along the road. We have a long way to go. And now we are going through the first tunnel for bicyclists and pedestrians under the road. And as you can see, it is also about 40 to 50 years old, and it's quite narrow. And during the nighttime, I think those lamps are shedding some light into this. But I think if you cycle or walk in the evenings, maybe you choose to go over the road directly during the crossing, because it's a bit, you can't see the other side of the lane. There are some hidden corners. And now we are on the other side of this Atle project. And I'm going a bit further to show you how the buildings and these walls will meet the street in its current outcome. And here on the south side, you can see my colleagues and the area of Trädlickan with larger apartment buildings. Many of those are owned apartments with large green areas between them. Quite I don't find the word. Lustig. Airy.
Airy, I would say.
And 3 stories high. Thank you. 3-story high buildings, and they also have their parking and garage areas towards Trädlickevägen. So you can see that these areas of developments, they turn their back to each other, so you could say. And we don't plan to walk down to the west point of the area, as you can see on the map. But I think we should go a little bit further and try to get a picture of how it seems when the road comes nearer to the city center and the circulation for cars. Here you have still the Atle project with its walls. And the next thing you see at the right hand here is a cemetery, and along with a chapel for funerals. And it is the cemetery for the Varberg citizens. It's a very nice green area, as you could see when we come a bit further. And there are a lot of people walking around in this area. And maybe you can spot it between Atle and this crematory building there. And now on this side, there are some new building types, detached houses and smaller rental buildings. this St. Jürgen's Cemetery is culturally and historically valuable. The funeral chapel from 1969 is protected as a building. And we don't see as much of it right now, but maybe you can Google and get a more clear picture of how it looks. Now we look back from where we came. Do you have any questions in the chat, Carolina?
I cannot see any questions, but should we stop for a second, and if anyone is thinking of something, take the opportunity to ask Maria now. Everything is very clear, so no questions. You can continue, Maria.
Maybe I thought I could ask Christina if we, this west part of the road, are there any other plans or ideas from those who are currently on the sites?
Yes, let's see if I can hear. Can you hear me? Yes.
Is this round sound again? So if
I'll walk a bit further from Maria then.
okay.
In this area, we have two planning permits that have been asked to build on those parking lots that Maria has shown in the pictures. And they plan for densification with buildings that turn themselves a bit more up towards the street and not quite that large stretch of open space that we have right now, where we have the cars and then the building starts. So part of this idea of densifying and turning the street into more of a cityscape is also mirrored in the applications that we have right now from different developers in the area. We also have the whole area with the city center. So right now we're at almost at the end of the area, and the circulations just at the end of the cemetery that Maria just talked about. And here we have also a new housing development that is underway that is going to connect more clearly to the street at the end of the picture that you see right now. We have a lot of traffic right now, so I'm not sure how well you can hear me. I'll walk a bit further along towards back towards the area, because most of this stretch is privately owned, but when we walk a bit further towards the east again, we have, as you can see on the map, between number 2, 3, and 4, we have a stretch of a green area, and that is also owned by the municipality. And we think that part could be an interesting point to look at in this competition. We're talking about a lot of different things that we would like to see in the brief for the competition, as Frida and Maria have discussed before. It's densification with the housing and, for example, offices or different commercial buildings, but it also implies densifications with, for example, ecosystem services. And this is one of the areas where it could be interesting to look at the combination of these things, because it's quite a grown-up area of trees. And it's connected to one of the larger bus stops that we have along the road today. Are there any questions on this area?
We are now moving back towards number 2 and 3. On the south side of this area that Christina mentioned. There are some animals you can see that live here, and some of the citizens have made a bee. I don't know. And I thought we should show you. Here you have the leveled passage again. As you can see, there are a lot of parked cars here as well. Do you hear the birds?
Yes, we hear them.
Yes. Okay, good. There are a lot of birds singing and natural sounds as well as traffic sounds. Here you have our bee population site. I don't know if there are any out. Yes, there are. Maybe I won't stop here too long. That's a question you have to ask yourself, how you can maintain some ecosystem services in our city, yet your intensification continues with new livings for people as well as animals. And Christina, I don't know, I didn't quite hear you before, but this green stretch along the road, it's a place where animals can travel through the city and does today, both day and night time, and it's an important infrastructure in the green connections in the city. That it's a part of our green strategy for Varberg, that you have to have these zones that connect the city for animals to be able to live in the city as well. And now here we have no opportunity to continue at the south side of Fredlikevägen, because here is a new development, and we have to cross the road again and go back the same way we came on the north side of the street. And maybe I don't talk along the way all the time, but if you want to have any breaks or something, you can take them as well. Here we look back at Atle and the 7-story building again. Yes, they stopped. Now we're just transporting us down towards number 8. And then we'll talk a bit about the Karlberg area.
Maria, we cannot hear you now, but you're just walking, right?
Yes, I'm just walking actually.
Yes.
Don't know what to, what to tell you again.
No.
We have walked back the same path as we took before, and we have the circulation again at Torstenstorg. And on the other side of the circulation, you have another church, quietly new built or about late 80s, early 90s. And here you have a lorry. And now we are crossing Söderlikevägen to come to the south side and the southeast large area where there are a lot of green large green areas between the dwellings and the road. And I know Christina is talking to some other people right now, I think, but she promised me she could tell you something about this area. Maybe should we go a bit further, Christina? Yeah. We begin to walk along this. As you can see, it's parking and garage areas again. And the larger zone, the wider zone with green vegetation. And we enter Karlberg, a large area planned during the 1960s and built in the late 60s and early 70s. Detached housing mostly. The similar shape of almost every building, but the years have made that they are different colors and materials on them right now. And these, I should try to take out my paper with the English translation here. I thought I should say that this uniform residential development from the mid-60s were built during the years when we in Varberg surroundings built a new hospital, a nuclear plant called Ringhals, and Värö paper mill about 20 kilometers north of Varberg, which gave great need for housing altogether. And it's planning ideals that was to make a safe environment for children with access to green areas and schools and so on, and that the car lanes or the roads ends. You come up and down in the same lane and turn at the end of these streets. And now, Christina, could you say something about this land between the road and the dwellings?
Yes, I was going to say a little bit about this stretch of the whole cityscape, and this is the point where today we have the widest open space between buildings. So this is the stretch where we have quite a large amount of undeveloped areas between the houses that are mainly privately owned on Karlberg, that are larger dwellings, and then we have on the other side of the street we have the municipal building company's owned rental apartments. So it's a bridge that we need to.
Can you put your camera again? Sorry.
Yes, of course. We would like to bridge these two areas of housing that are quite different, and at the same time work with the in-between space that is the largest stretch of a green area in this whole development. the zone today is mainly it's partly trees, but it's mainly designed to be more of a traffic barrier between the larger roads and the parallel smaller roads that are within the housing area.
And as you can see, there is also a, vad heter den, vall? Bullervall. Heter det, Carolina?
Sorry, I would say like a noise barrier.
Yeah. You see that the ground level, you just see the top of the buses, not the cars or people. You see a noise barrier, and there between the trees you can see Håstens Torg with the higher building, 5-story building, and the end of the former post office building. Now we have quite a long walk ahead of us if we are going to come to the east end of the area, where there are further developing plans in the future. That's called Östra Träslöv. And we thought it would be good to walk along the whole distance, since the area is not looking the same exactly the whole way, and it gives you an idea of the character of this area. But please feel free to ask any questions if you see something special. And here you see they have designed the road carefully, so the cars are not supposed to drive too fast. And there, bus lane. And it is a very popular residential area where you live very close to the city center. You have close connection directly with school and recreational areas here south of the Träslövägen. Here you can see they have made some stops so you cannot drive along this side with cars, just for cycles and walking. You have the next road. And here we don't have this protecting sound buffer, but it opens up and connects with a leveled passage over to the Håsten area. And here at this point, you have a larger connection with the recreational area and school called Furuberg. And it's a very important green link that we have marked out on our competition site to a link that needs to be maintained. And you can see there are a lot of young people that are going by bike and so on after school. Some questions here. Otherwise, we are going down under the road to the north side, and we will look at how this bicycle and pedestrian lane looks like alongside of Håstens Here you go up to the road if you're going to take the bus. We have some tags on our walls here. And I don't think that car was on the right track, but since it's an, what do you call it? Municipal people, they may do this kind of special trips. And in the Håsian area, there are mostly buildings from the 60s and 70s. But recently, during the last year, there has been some densification projects. And you can see the white building with apartments maybe in the middle of the picture. And it's a way to densify in the same scale in the area to make some new apartments possible. And Håsten, I think, is the area in Varberg where it's very common to have your first apartment. They are at I don't know the term, but they are affordable prices of the rentals. But and that means that the people who live here are of many different kinds of backgrounds, and usually they maybe not stay for many years, but it's their first living space, and then they move on to bigger, and maybe when they have their families and so on. Now we see a office for the local community living. They are Carolina, alltså fastighetsskötsel. Du hörs inte, Carolina.
Sorry, that was a hard word for Biosa, but I looked at it. Property management.
Yes, and they have their local office here in the area, since there are so many apartments that they have to take care of this site. Otherwise, there are mostly apartments, all of it, but at the end of this road, there's a new built preschool, and we have allotments and the activity area with different sports events north. And here you can see the cars crossing, but there are no possibilities for pedestrians or bicycles. They are supposed to use the level crossings. And here is the beginning of a new sound protection hill or wall, or what you call it, with vegetation. And it's not as wide protected area on this north side of the street. This area is a bit smaller. And it's mainly the same functions during the way. Here we have the connections today into the area of Austin. As you can see, they are quite high here. Are there any questions about this section? Did we lose somebody here? I think you can follow us. Yep, then
Any
we're
questions? Raise your hand or write in the chat.
Are there any of my colleagues who want to say something? To tell us something? No. Just look at this last part of the walk, and we are going back towards Karlberg housing.
Maria, now we don't see your camera. It went off.
Oh no, low battery. It was a signal for low battery on my camera.
Okay.
So maybe we have to change to some of my colleagues' cameras.
Yeah, it takes a lot of battery when you are filming with Zoom.
I think we should walk up to the road here, and there are my colleagues, and we will just show you how the bus stop and situation looks like, and how to approach the Trädlyckevägen road from this point. Here you can see you have a possibility to drive faster, and yeah, maybe you hear the wind too. And then most of the road, as you drive along it, you don't actually see the dwellings on the other side, not at this time of year anyway, when the leaves are covering the trees. Now we go back and take the last part of the walk. Excuse us, we're just trying to fix with the batteries. Now we are back on the Karlberg side. And as you can see, there are some complementary, more modern buildings, but very similar to the structure of the old area. And here the green buffer zone is in the same level as the dwellings here on Karlberg and Trädäckevägen. And you may spot the roofs of Håsten on the other side. I thought I should try to ask you if you have had the opportunity to read our program and the target. Do you have any questions that links to our program?
Maria, now you have your thumb in front of the camera.
Oh, sorry.
Now it's good.
Which hand? But that was not.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I thought maybe it was an opportunity for you to ask questions about the target or anything we had written in the program. But we'll walk through to the east boundary of the area. And here you see you don't have as much grown up green, just some trees, quite open space. And when I turn my camera and look towards the west, you can see that it's very straight road, very long, the possibilities for sight lines. Now we're approaching the end of the area. And a new circulation that leads further east and the new developing areas. Now my colleagues have stopped during the way. Maybe they can fill in if they have some information to share. Does anybody wants to say something?
Yeah, Maria, we were just talking about the importance of the connections between the north and the south side of the street. There's a lot of people passing to different functions, the recreational areas, and schools, and sport areas. So that was the discussion we had.
Yeah. And I hope we have been clear, and you can see that in the program that this is an opportunity we want to stress, that transform this quite distinguished barrier into something that rather connects the city, and to fill in with new maybe buildings or green values or other functions that we could complement the areas with. And now I wonder if you have some more questions about anything in the area we have seen before or connected to this point. Carolina, you don't have any particular questions?
No, it's not
No?
coming up.
Do you have some questions you want to address us?
No, I think it's a really good tour and very clear explained.
And about questions during the way, it's an opportunity for the contestants to ask questions in writing or not.
You mean later?
Yes.
Yes. So later on, if you come up with other thoughts or questions, you email it to Europan SE, and then we would forward it to Varberg municipality and give you answer on the questions. So maybe in some days you will have questions, and that's until and now I don't remember the date, but it's an end date until you can have questions for the tasks. Now one question came up. Good. And so number one, how important is the green area along the road in the eastern part? Can you build on it?
I don't know which should answer first, but we have discussed these green areas, and they are important for connections with animals and the green values, and they are also providing ecosystem services. But we think that you may take parts of it and develop and still increase the values of other of the parts. And we would like you to consider if you think there were some points along this road that is more or less strategic points for new buildings or complementing other functions. And I know you can't see exactly which sorts of trees and so on in the area, but I think that you don't have to take care and preserve everything, but you should consider when you're taking away some green areas and what you ersätter dem med, replace them with. And of course, those wide areas which are covered with asphalt, they have less values in the ecosystem aspect. And Christina, you have something?
Yes, I think you could also add that parts of the points where you decide to ask for or opt for a development, you could also integrate ecosystem services in your proposals, so that you could use a built environment that at the same time has the same values as the green structure that we have in place today. That is something that we would like to see as interesting and something new that we haven't quite seen in Varberg before.
No.
I think that would be something that would add an extra edge to a proposal or to new ways of seeing how you could integrate the green into built structures.
Yeah, certainly.
Yes.
Jo, Frida, do you have any comments? Maybe otherwise I can add that it's an economical question too. In the end, if you are going to transform all these roads and meeting places and areas for the kommuninvånarna.
Now we cannot see you, Maria. Maybe you have problem with the battery.
Yes, okay.
Now
It's 10%. I hope I hope it works. And what did I say? Yes, it costs a lot of money when you are going to transform and create values in the existing structures. So we think that there is a need for a bit of a dwelling to be able to take care of those costs at a sustainable economical way. But of course, we don't want you to create Varberg to be a multimillionaire city with very high buildings and so on, but mainly it's your task to think about what you.
Yes, thank you, Maria. And the second question is, other than the buildings that exist on private land, what are the expectations for the buildings from public areas? Can they be demolished? Is that desirable?
I don't really quite understand the question, maybe. Which buildings are you talking about? Are they around the Håstenstorg?
Romina, could you explain what you mean there? I think you have to unmute your microphone, Romina. Romina, are you in the meeting still?
Hey, yes, sorry, I can't speak very well. I'm talking about the area that's somewhere in the middle of the site. I can't actually pronounce the name very well. The larger built area. And I was wondering if there are many, maybe buildings out there that can support some changes. I don't know, maybe be demolished partially in order to make place for something else or not.
They are private owned, all of them.
Okay.
But the ones that we have written that Deromme is the owner, and I showed you as a former post office building. They have the thought themselves that they want to demolish that building and complement with a new housing with apartments. And I think that maybe you can create some ideas and thoughts about the other buildings, but we don't have their approval, or what you could say, right now, but maybe they are interested in hearing your ideas and to get more new ideas for their future. And I think that maybe it's the same for the healthcare center, and I don't know about the car petrol station, but I think try to be a bit open-minded in liksom, in showing what values you think it could give to the area if you develop and change even some of the buildings.
Thank you.
Maybe I can add something. Frida?
Let's put on your camera also when we speak.
Okay, you asked before about if you were allowed to suggest buildings on the green areas and so on. And I think, as we said before, we would like you to have ideas about how the whole lane and how the whole project site can transform into a more of an urban area and urban street. And if you think that buildings is a part of that, that would be a part of your suggestion and your proposal. And if you think that it contains of other stuff, other things, yeah, you can show that to us. So I think you will have to be open-minded about what it can be, but we would like it to be more of an urban area. Okay.
Thanks, Frida. And then we have one more question, and there are large amounts of parking in the general around the square and new housing at the beginning of the walk. Can we assume that the part of the challenge to bring life activity, density of activities to this area would require addressing the problem that large areas of surface parking bring? It was a long question. So the question is, can we assume that part of the challenge to bring life activity to this area would require addressing the problem that large areas of surface parking bring?
Yes, I can start by answering the question, and then my colleagues could fill in if they have any thoughts as well. But yes, part of that, of our big challenge here is that we have a lot of parking and a lot of spaces for cars. At the same time, as we described in the brief, we would like to maintain the possibility for the same amount of cars to transport themselves through the area. So it's a mixed message, I guess. Work with new ideas how to have less visible car spaces and less visible areas that are just for cars, but at the same time maintain the mobility within the area.
Yes, and maybe I can fill in something too. I think, as Christina said, it's important to question these areas with parking, but also to think about other modes of transportation. If we can develop more attractive solutions for cycling or for public transportations, and how we connect the built structures, the housing and the service to the transport solutions. So see that as a challenge too, more sustainable transport solutions.
Thanks, Johan. And do we have any more questions? You can also raise your hand if you want to say the question straight to Varberg. No?
No. then, if we don't have anything more to add today, we are very thankful that you have been following us around this area, this site, and we are really looking forward to your ideas and maybe more questions. Do you have anything to complement now, Carolina?
No, I just want to say we were like really in time, almost 2 hours. It's a quarter to 3 o'clock, so well done. I think you were the municipality who took the longest site visit. And now someone writes in the chat, just thank you everyone for the hard work to make this walk happen. It's logistically complicated, but you have done a great job with mobile phones. It was very clear and helpful. Yes, I think that summarized well. So we were talking, me and Maria, if we were going to do this by bike or walking, but also with the phone, it's bumps lots when you go with the bike. So I think this was much better, but the only problem was with the wind in the beginning, but that also became better in the end. But it was blowing much more than when we practiced 2 days ago. But I think it was also very nice that you were 4 people from the municipality and you could do this talk. So thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who participated in this site visit. And we will also, as I said in the beginning, we have recorded it, so we will put it later on our homepage, on Europan SC webpage. So then I wish everyone a good weekend and
Same
good luck with the competition for everyone.
Yes,
also.
good luck.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.